Chatting with Madonna Guy, Sir Cliff. Remember when he was just Cliff, Richard, and he was going out with Sue Barker? Remember her, the English tennis player?
Oh, right.
Peaches and cream complexion,
I
very
had
attractive
forgotten.
girl.
Yeah.
And I saw her on TV recently. I don't know whether it was over in Belgium or here, but she had to be 60 today, I guess, but still a very attractive lady. Got it all together, and I dare say probably very happy. I don't think the affair lasted too long, but good on Sue Barker. Great little tennis player. Oh, Madonna Guy, Friday afternoon, and looking forward to a weekend. New Leaf Natural Therapies there at Wynnum.
In 94 Edith Street, Wynnum. So given what Gerald's been talking about this morning, we've actually had a flu mix that we've been doing for a lot of our clients this winter. And there's a couple of mixes we've been making up that are just working brilliantly. Things like Ivy Leaf is actually in our mix.
The clear congestion.
Yeah, so it's great for the lungs. Interesting that I've never thought of using it for things like asthma, but it might actually become part of my repertoire now, especially now that they're looking at...
That's another thing that's getting bigger than Ben heard.
Yeah.
Kids suffering asthma.
I know it was a few years ago, but it was 1 in 8 kids had asthma, at 8 years old. So
going to be higher today.
Yeah, probably would be. When I was at Congress about a month ago down in Melbourne, and they were talking a lot about...
Is this where the gentleman who was giving the talk?
Dr. Flavio Carigliani.
Oh, I heard about you and Dr. Carigliani.
He was a 33-year-old Brazilian, so, you've got to hear from the experts.
I look a little Brazilian, don't I?
So it was very nice. So when we were down there, they were talking a lot about immune systems and all sorts of stuff, and the stats. You're absolutely right. Everything's getting worse. And I think unless people, and of course, the drugs are keeping people at bay, but it's not getting people into a healthy state, it's just preventing...
Suppressing.
It really does. And the longer we're doing things, and I'm not saying don't take your puffers, that is not what I'm saying, but sometimes people's mucus can actually be suppressed to the lower lobes of the lungs. So that means we need something to break down that congestion and get that phlegm off the lungs, long term.
Exercise is a great remedy. A lot of swimmers are asthmatics.
Yes.
And when my kids were swimming at Chandler under the lovely Bernie Wakefield, I used to see the kids going up and down, and they were some supreme athletes.
Yeah.
And they'd stop every now and have to have a puff on that puffer.
Yes.
And then they'd go off and do their other 50, 100, whatever.
Yeah.
And quite common.
Yeah.
Swimming, exercise, great way to beat asthma.
So there are a lot of really good herbs for the lungs, things like elecampane and ivy leaf and grindelia and atatoda. So and depending on what people's symptoms come in with, we'll make up something slightly different. But we do have a bit of a standard cough mix that's just working brilliantly for people this winter. So it's a good, strong one, like elderberry flowers, for example. So you might have heard of elderberry flower tea.
Madonna,
perhaps not. There's actually elderflower liqueur as well. So we had that for Christmas one year. We had little cocktails. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about. But elderflower is one of the ones that's known to kill the viral cells. So
that creates all this problem.
Yeah, that's right. So some herbs work by boosting immunity, some herbs work by breaking down congestion, others work by actually killing bacteria and viruses. So that's why we would do a combination of herbs.
And you make that in-house?
Yeah, we do. So we've got about 200 herbs in stock. So we sort of, depending on what...
It's a massive complex you got down there.
It is pretty cool. Yeah. So I think, and George has been seeing a lot of people with the flu. Like it's just been, it's been challenging.
Do you know if these people who you are seeing who have got the flu, and we're not talking about a heavy cold, there's a big difference, are these people admitting that they've had the flu shot?
Some people have, some people haven't. It's probably about 50-50 because a lot of our clients choose not to do the flu vaccines. But like I'm saying, the fear the last few years is actually, that the government is pushing about the flu vaccines. It's really terrifying people.
Well, it is, yeah. There's a lot of unnecessary deaths, I dare say.
Yeah,
and I don't think we see the accurate... I know in Europe, Northern Europe, they did have a very, very bad flu season.
Yeah.
And thousands perished because of it.
Yeah. So. I think one of the things, and like Gerald was saying, like the flu vaccine is just a tool. It's one of the things you can do.
No guarantee.
But you still have to pay attention to your symptoms. So if you have the flu and then you get a cold, pay attention to the cold. It's a sign that your immune system isn't great. So do something about it. If you then do antibiotics on top of the flu, your poor little immune system's going to really be struggling. So those probiotics are so important because the flu can, as well as antibiotics, can actually change that combination of bacteria in your gut. And remember, we've got 40 times as many cells in our gut than we have cells in our body.
I remember when I first went to air with you and you mentioned that, I thought, oh my God.
You know, so
I thought our gut was pristine.
Absolutely
clean.
not.
No, it's a little cesspool
Absolutely
of germs.
not. Yeah, and it is a real problem. And the germs, as long as they're happy and healthy, they're doing us a good favour. They're the things that help to keep our genes really healthy. They're the things that help to prevent long-term disease. So 90% of immunity is in the gut, which is why the diet is so important. If we're putting rubbish into our gut, we're creating rubbish bacteria. If we're eating healthily, especially in winter,
your
and
salads, your veggies.
how quickly do people just not eat well? You know, they go, oh, I felt like something stodgy overnight. So all of a sudden the sausage rolls, the meat pies, those hot nut, you know, those things come into the diet. And all of a sudden there's more pastry, there's more, you know, just things that aren't as healthy.
You don't really know what goes into some of that. Look, I said to my son the other day, he's home with me at the moment, and I said, look, what are we going to do for dinner? I want to get some veggies and we'll have a meat pie on the side.
Yeah.
And he said, a meat pie? Now, I took my hat off to him. He wasn't going to have a meat pie.
Yeah.
He said, I'll go and get a steak. So I said, okay, well, that's steak.
Yeah.
But I love a meat pie, especially the footy.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I made some gluten-free meat pies a little while ago. I've actually bought the little, you know, and oh my gosh, so yummy. But I'm trying to, you know, because some of them just taste like rubbish, the gluten-free stuff. But I'm really trying to use some good ingredients in there that really make it quite delicious.
We could start up a, not just a New Leaf Natural Therapies show, but we could have a cooking program with Madonna Guy and her magic secret recipes.
Well, there's not many of them, but, you know, the things that work tend to work, which is really, really cool. Yeah, so I think it's not as hard. You know, for example, if I make beef stroganoff, which I do regularly,
I love it.
I don't, you know, people do it with the big rice or the big potatoes. We don't do that. We actually do it with natural yogurt on top.
Yogurt?
Natural, you know, instead of, you know, lots of cream in it.
Well, you've never brought any into me. You know I live on my own. I'm a malnourished bachelor.
Aww.
I dwell on my daughter returning home, but she won't. Look, we'll come back, have a chat, but we're going to have a couple of words from these lovely people. You're with Madonna Guy, Roger Jeffries here at Bay FM on a Friday morning. Great to have your company. Be back in a moment.